So the fighting here at Turner's Gap is a bit different than the other gaps because they're going to be able to utilize the National Road. Federal forces from the Union 1st Corps are going to begin advancing up the National Road at around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So the day is progressing. We have had heavy fighting throughout the morning and early afternoon at Fox's Gap. We have had heavy fighting break out with the Pennsylvania Reserves up at Frosttown Gap. And now we're going to take that drive towards the middle and breach the Confederate defenses at Turner. Unlike the other gaps, Confederate forces are actually going to defend Turner's Gap much lower down on the mountain. And that's primarily because of all of those stone fences that we keep talking about. Confederate forces are going to be hopscotching from one fence back to the next as they're being driven back up into Turner's Gap. And we would see this throughout the rest of the day. But advancing across these beautiful fields behind us here will actually be one of the most famous brigades in the Army of the Potomac, and certainly one of my favorites. Of course, is the famed Black Hats, or the Western Iron Brigade.
They're about to become the Iron Brigade. Everybody calm down. They're not there yet. They're about to be.
They're made up of 3 Midwestern regiments, the 2nd, 6th, and 7th Wisconsin, and the 19th Indiana. These troops are passing right over these fields. They are being supported by artillery fire from that high ground out there in the distance and pushing along not only the National Road, but also the flat fields behind me. On the opposite side of the National Road, we have additional federal forces with having a much different experience in their advance, where the guys who are about to be dubbed the Iron Brigade are advancing with alacrity, if you will, across these fields. The troops on the other side of the road are being slowed down, not only by those stone fences and the Confederate defenders, but also by the terrain. This is where we have accounts of guys pulling themselves up hand over hand by the trees and by the roots and things that are growing out of the side of this mountain because it begins to become so steep. But right through here, much easier terrain, and we're going to have some very serious fighting on these rolling open fields. But these federal soldiers, much like the other gaps, are going to succeed in driving the Confederates back into Turner's Gap, and Turner's would be one of those gaps that's fought over really until true dark, 9, 10 o'clock at night, when the troops themselves on the field are firing at muzzle flashes. The soldiers that are fighting here, both north and south, will bed down on the very field of battle. Many of these men commenting about sleeping amongst the dead and wounded that night. Many of these soldiers waking up the next morning to find the guys that they have been tucked in with are no longer on this earth.
So as we move to the conclusion of this fight, we're going to get us over to the final gap here, and we're going to sort of put this all in context about what it means in the campaign as a whole thus far, and what it's going to mean about where this campaign is going. A couple things as we wind down here. First of all, we are continuously saying stone fences on purpose. We don't want to say stone walls to confuse everybody. He's somewhere else right now, guys, obviously. And we're a very high-class show. We only use SAT words, alacrity. We'll see you at the last gap.